Hello and welcome to Timeline, the show that unpacks the issues shaping our world and where we get to provide solutions to make the world a better place. I am your host, Sharon Ajay, and of course, with me, as always,
Hannah Omokafe Dennis, and I'm excited to see how our world can be better with today's topic.
Of course, today we're going to be treating a topic that is a growing global challenge, and that is homelessness. And to discuss, we have a guest in the studio with us to help us dig deep into this conversation. We're going on a short break, and when we return, Timeline continues. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Timeline. Our guest is the program's director at Castle of Refuge Foundation, Oluwatomisin and Adeshina. It's good to have you in the studio, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Just like I stated before we went on the break, I said homelessness is a growing global challenge. And I know it goes beyond lacking a place to stay. It's basically an issue that reflects poverty, unemployment, social exclusion. And, knowing about the cause, understanding the cause can basically help us to provide a compassionate solution to tackle that issue. Now, to back it up, I'll give a statistics, a report by the UN Habitat that's estimated about 318 people being homeless, 318 million people being homeless, and 2.8 billion people not having adequate access to, shelter. And that is a serious challenge, right, Mokafe?
Yes, like you rightly said, homelessness is not just having it's not just having you not having physical shelter, but just like the UN had mentioned or had said that it is a violation of human rights. It is a profound assault on human dignity. This is why we're here today, to see how we can provide solutions to ensure that homelessness reduces totally, or we have it eradicated.
Rightly said. Now, Tommy, let's come to you. Okay. Now, I'd like you to define in simple terms what homelessness means beyond, sleeping on the street.
Okay, thank you. Homelessness is actually, simply put, housing insecurity. Mm-hmm. Like both of you rightly said, homelessness is beyond not having a roof over your head, is the inability to have stable, affordable, and secure accommodation, actually.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very profound. But let's look at what are the main sources of homelessness, because you see homelessness spread across several continents and across several countries. In fact, the US had recently said in their report for 2024 that they had 771,000 persons who were homeless, and this was as a result of a lot of things. So what do you think are the main sources of homelessness?
All right, main causes of homelessness is, I would say, trying to narrow it down to our own experience on the field. I'd say first will be the arbitrary increase in rents. Currently and unfortunately right now, we don't have specific rent regulation systems as much as we have, tenancy laws across states. There's no national regulation that actually pegs how much a landlord can charge. So landlords are left to, make decisions at their own discretions. And also inflation is a big deal. Inflation, the increase in cost of living. Rent is one thing, feeding, healthcare, a lot of things to grapple with beyond rent. So imagine having to pay through your nose for rent and then having to deal with other things. Now, also low income, It's safe or easy to say low-income earners are the ones that are more susceptible to homelessness. But I beg to differ, because today, middle-income earners are just one rent increment away from being homeless. So beyond poverty, beyond the usual or the regular causes of homelessness, I'd say the arbitrary increase in rent. That's like the major issue right now that we're all grappling with. And as well as, inflation, low income, and yes, basically those are the top causes of homelessness.
Interesting. When we talk about homelessness, you made mention there are people at risk, and you talked about low income earners, and of course there are other people, let's say drug addicts, and basically people in that category. We could name them as people who are at the risk of homelessness. Now, I saw you just tweak your face a little bit. So tell us, are there more people that are at the risk of being homeless?
Everybody is, unfortunately.
Okay.
I think just the upper class are exempt, but everybody is, because contingencies happen. Nobody prays or plans to be homeless. But recently, I had an encounter with somebody who moved from 100 to 0. He didn't plan towards it. He didn't think it would happen, but life happened. I think his house caught fire. He lost his job. A lot of factors. A lot of people are, susceptible to it. And I flinched because you said drug addicts.
Okay.
I don't think that's a safe space to say those are the people that are susceptible to it. What has led them to being drug addicts? And I'm hoping in the course of this conversation, we talk about what leads people into homelessness, for instance, like being on the street alone. Right. Of course, homelessness is beyond just being on the street. But of course, being without a stable or a stable shelter, it opens you up to vices. It opens you up to violations. It opens you up to, fear, a lot of things, which of course now leads to some of them being introduced to drug abuse.
Okay.
There's rape. There's a lot of issues around that, actually. So yes, homelessness, people that are susceptible to it. You could also say single mothers. Right. As much as Nigeria is family centric, there's one neighbor looking out for you and another. But what happens when everybody in your circle, are actually underemployed or unemployed, for instance? So it's pretty much drags everybody down. And single mothers, for instance, the castigation that they get, there's hardly any support. So they are beginning to fend for themselves. So beyond paying rent, they are sending kids to school, they are feeding their kids and all of that. Yeah, so it's a lot. There are a lot of people that actually can become homeless.
Okay, so while you were talking, you mentioned the fact that let's get to the conversation where we get to talk about what leads to homelessness. Because I want to be able to afford a house and still be able to afford basic furniture and other necessary things. If I pay rent today, should there be a bed in my house? Definitely. Should there be chairs? Definitely. Should there be TVs to keep me entertained? Definitely. But when the high income, or should I say, when rent is really high, transportation is high, far from where there are jobs, where there are hospitals, and all of this takes away my money, I am left with the option of either staying in that same house that is empty or going to find somewhere really close, to where I can be able to access basic amenities. So what are some of these factors that leads to a person being homeless?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, one could lose jobs. It could be the death of a breadwinner, insurgencies, which is basically like it's like the on the fastest burner right now. Insecurity here and there. So you are displaced people from their homes, and then we get questions like, why can't they go back? What are they going back to? When their house is already razed with fire, there's insecurity, there's unrest, there's fear. So they probably will just come together and form a cluster. So we have people who are on the under bridges, even squatters. You wouldn't classify squatters as people who have homes. Research shows that squatters are also homeless people, because a squatter is just an eviction away from being homeless. Anything can happen. The person housing you can say, okay, yes, I'm done. And then what next? So causes of homelessness are beyond the conventional causes that everybody thinks that they know. It could be as little as these days, I'm going to put the blame on a lot of landlords, apart from, of course, economic issues, societal issues. Landlords also have a major chunk of this. I don't think any human person would wake up and then triple your rent because they are linking it to, foreign exchange. How does that affect us? How does that, have anything to do with the human face? So yes, I think that summarizes it.
Okay.
All right, interesting. In 2024, the US did a count, or would I say an estimate, and they got the number of 770,000 people that were homeless. Now, I wouldn't say interestingly, but sadly, that figure, they counted about 150 children of that figure being homeless. And you could tell, when it comes to children, it's really heartening,
Yes,
it's really heartbreaking rather to know that, children are living under those kind of circumstances. Now tell us, how does homelessness affect children in particular and young people?
There's this thing that where a child is brought up really tells about the child's present and the child's future. Homelessness, for instance, is displacing the mother, displacing kids. Your children become prone to societal vices. So, health-wise, I remember one of our visits to one of these homeless shelters. A child died because they went to use the bathroom. Of course, they had to do a makeshift toilet, and the child fell into that hole and died. So that is one thing that kids are kids. They can't look out for themselves. And then the mother or the father is also trying to, as little as possible, most of them are informal sectors. Maybe laborers, cleaners, whatever it is, they're learning, unfortunately, below the minimum wage. And even if they earn up to the minimum wage, how much transportation is there? All of that. So kids are exposed to more harm than good. Also, there are a lot of times kids drop out of school. Imagine they were living in town, rent increment, they're chased out of town, they've now moved to the outskirts. Now, there's no continuity in education. So they drop out of school and then they begin to find, that's where child labor starts. There's child trafficking, actually, incidents of rape, just general abuse. So it really takes a toll on mental health, physical health. There's one of our beneficiaries. Every now and then, the child falls sick. No matter the intervention, they're still, they're exposed to harsh weathers, harsh conditions, and just general illness.
Thank you, Tomisin. It was an interesting section at this point. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us regarding this issue.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be going on a short break now, and when we return, we'll be unveiling our next guest, still in relations to this topic. And of course, Omo Cafe will be taking us through social commentary. Stay with us.
Culture connects us beyond borders. It's a bridge between traditions, creativity, and the future.
Culture is alive, shaping identities and communities every day.
Art tells stories of resilience and vision.
Artists blend tradition with innovation.
Cultural preservation creates sustainability and empowerment.
Culture evolves and adapts.
Music and dance unites communities through movement.
And right here, in the heart of our cities, artists and creators are keeping these cultures alive.
On Culture Cove, let's explore,
celebrate, and preserve the arts and culture that define us.
Welcome back. This is Timeline. Now we have a guest, and our guest is the HR manager for Castle of Refuge Foundation, Ololade Adegoke. It's good to have you with us in the studio.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, just like we've established, we're talking about homelessness. And, people have a lot of myths and misconceptions about homeless people. Let's take it down to Canada, where the government data shows that people that are homeless, most of the people homeless actually have a job. But when you're speaking to somebody and telling them, having a conversation about homelessness, the first thing that comes to their mind is, oh, this person is either lazy, it doesn't have a job, and basically all of that.
Or no
now,
family.
I'd want you to tell us, what are some myths and misconceptions that, flows around homeless people?
Okay, thank you. I'll say you said it because from interview with these homeless people, you realize that they are not lazy. They are people that want to work. They are people striving for a better life. They are people looking for a good life. So they are not lazy. So that misconception is just perception, I would say. You just believe, oh, for you to be homeless, it means you're lazy. For you to be homeless, you're not hardworking enough, or you do not have prospects. And I would like to debunk that because there are a lot of hardworking people, but I'll say circumstances and maybe not having enough to rent an apartment or situation, family situation, domestic violence, all of that could push someone to be homeless, not because they are lazy.
Yeah. UNHCR had also added some of the factors that leads people to become homeless, and not just all of the myths that we get to believe. And they said that 1 in 67 persons on earth are currently homeless, and this is because of some factors like conflict, like human rights violations, and like violence also. So like your colleague had earlier mentioned, these are some of the factors that lead to that. So let's take a look at what people are talking about on social media as regards homelessness. This is from Kevin, and he says that family estrangement is extremely common among people experiencing homelessness and is one of the deepest sources of hopelessness on the street. When you talk to someone who is homeless, ask about their family. Do you think that family contributes to that?
Oh, yes, it does. It's a huge contributor of homelessness. Let's take, for instance, a woman who is married to a man. In fact, this is a real life testimony of a woman who is married and sent out of her home because she couldn't bear children. And this woman does not have an income after marriage. The way most of, let me say, underdeveloped parts of our society gets married. They do not marry from a point of stability. They marry to go and get stable in the house, mostly from the women, the house of their husbands. So this woman was sent out of her family home, her husband's house, because she could not bear children. And she ended up under the bridge because she had nowhere else to go. She says, I can't go back to my mother's house because it's a stigma for you to leave your husband's house back to your parents' home. So she's under the bridge trying to find a better life, and that woman is rendered homeless. So family contributes hugely to homelessness. You can talk about violence, domestic violence, where a woman is running away from a husband that hits, a husband that beats, a husband that abuses her, and also does not have any means of livelihood. She could become homeless. Talk about families that lose their breadwinner, families that lose the husband and also do not have a stable source of livelihood. They could become homeless. So family is a huge contributor.
Definitely. Like you heard, family is a huge contributor. And so we all have to come together to ensure that this is reduced. Let's take a look at the second tweet. And this is from Multiple X. Homelessness is more than lacking shelter. It's the absence of safety, dignity, and belonging. Behind every homeless face is a story of loss, resilience, and hope. A little kindness, empathy, and support can restore not just the home, but a human life. Now, they are saying that we should all come together to ensure that lives are restored as regards homelessness. But what do you think the government can do as regards policies, as regards implementation to ensure that this numbers reduces? Because the US, the data that we had earlier mentioned, 771,000 persons being homeless in the US said that it was an 18% increase from the previous year. So imagine constantly, yearly, it's increasing. What do you think the government should do better globally, not just in our country alone, to stop this from rising?
All right. I would say that the government are making efforts. I would give it to them. But there's still a gap. There's still a major gap in terms of high rates of housing.
there's still a major gap in terms of opportunities that are made available for those who do not have high skill, in quotes, so that they can be able to earn and fend for themselves, earn basic amenities like rent, a shelter over their head, for healthcare, for education, and all of it. So it's government needs to just make those policies more, like, improve on it.
Okay.
Don't let us just bring up something that we just do a surface level. Let it be in depth. Let it go to the deep square roots. Let it attack insurgency. Let it attack violence. Let it come not just to, okay, yes, would make this available for just this set of people. Let policies be made readily available for the low income earner, for the middle class earner, for the high class earner, so that everyone can benefit of these policies. And for the communities, everyone has a responsibility beyond what the government, it's just very easy for you to sit and cross your hand and say, oh, government is not doing this and I don't do anything. We all have a responsibility. We all have a part to play to reduce homelessness. Let's even start with that. Let's reduce homelessness. Let's stop that gap, that increase, in terms that, okay, next year it has increased again to 20,000. Let's do something. Let's show kindness. For us in Castle of Refuge, we are the front line. We are able to meet these people. We know where they are. We know how to connect with them. Partnership with NGOs, partnership with communities who go and face these people. It also helps to reduce this menace that is facing us in the society.
Rightly said. Just to add to what you've said, the Singapore housing system, they've literally subsidized most of their housing schemes, and about 80% of the citizens live in those subsidized houses. That if you should remove the subsidy, you would expect that those people would be on the street, and because they do not want that to happen, that's why they've taken the step forward to implement that. Now, you talked about communities and how we can come together, NGOs, the government, and civil societies, how we can come together to make sure that we eradicate this homelessness issue in not just the country, of course, the globe at large. Now let's take it down to individuals. There's little to what a person can do, but there is still something a person can do that can still, serve as a positive contribution to an homeless person. Now, I would like you to share with us, what can an individual, because I believe in as much as the government, NGOs, civil society are watching us right now, there's an individual out there that said, what can I do in my little capacity to help homeless people around me? So tell us about
All right, thank you. There's a saying that says a drop of water makes the ocean. So just your little support, your little donation, your little contribution, your little acts of kindness to an homeless person out there. You could see someone out there, there's these people that have this mindset of, oh, I can't give alms to those I meet on the street. It's just enabling them. But it's not just an enabler. It also shows that you care. Just an act of kindness, just give maybe a food here, a food there, just something to keep them in place for the meantime, pending when help comes to take them out of that place, to give them better stability. It goes a long way. So that is just that little act of kindness, which is a drop of water that would help boost their morale, bring hope to the homeless, to be able to build stability again.
All right, we're wrapping up. It's good that we had asked this kind of questions, especially with you that works in an homeless foundation, right?
Yes.
Let's take a look at, or for instance, rather, let's look at 5 years to come. Now, we've been doing a lot of talkings, but let's
Practical.
let's step in our shoes of imagination, right? Imagine if all of these solutions that we've talked about are implemented. What do you feel, or how do you see
the world, the globe, because we are not limited. How do you see the globe in regards to homelessness in 5 years to come? Coincidentally, that's even when we are hoping that the
2030.
SDG we have to, we get to meet the target, and of course leaving no one behind. And of course, homeless people are part of those we are not ready to leave behind.
Yes. I would say a safer community.
Okay.
The increase in violence and instability is as a result of increase in unstable livelihood of these homeless people. So anything that comes, any opportunity they find, it's easy for them to get exploited. It's easy for them to be brainwashed. It's easy for someone to say, oh, come and do this illegal thing for me, I'll pay you this. But because they are desperate and want to meet ends, they go for it. So, but if in this 5 years, we're able to implement all of these policies, all of these help, aid, being raised for them, being made for them, it will reduce violence. It will make our communities safer. It will make even we that have a stable livelihood or a stable place of home, we won't, like we would say, sleep with one eye open. You sleep soundly because insecurity situations will be reduced to a barest minimum. So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Wow, we are really looking forward to that 5 years. Yes. Thank you so much, Ololade. It was good having this conversation with you. And thank you for sharing your knowledge with us.
Thank you.
Well, that's where we draw the line on timeline. Remember, homelessness is a combined effort to make sure that we eradicate that issue. Until next time, I remain your host, Sharon Ajay.
And I'm Hannah Omokafe Dennis. To be able to take people out of the streets, we all have to come together to ensure that. So do something today.
See you again.